Hi, good to see you again. This is a two-part video on application documents. This can be a tricky area and can cause a lot of problems and declines if it's not handled properly. Many people ask why an application could be declined even if they've provided all of the documents, all of the information that INZ asked them to provide on the application form. Well, visa applications need to be approached like a court trial rather than like a checkbox activity like a passport application or a library card application. This means that you need to prove that you meet the criteria for the visa that you're applying for. It's not just a matter of showing that you have an ID photo, you have a passport, you have a job offer, or a New Zealand citizen partner or something like that. You need to actually prove you meet the criteria. The level of proof will depend on each person. Some people will need to prove more. Some people perhaps will not need to prove as much. There are basically two categories of documents that we tend to think about when we're making a visa application. There are the basic application documents, and then there are the application-specific documents. The basic application documents are things like your ID photo, your passport, police certificate, medical certificates, and then depending on the visa type you might have your job offer, your job description, employment agreement, or it might be an offer of place or things like that, depending on your application. The basic documents will be what Immigration New Zealand asks for on the application form. When you go through the form, it tells you you need to provide an ID photo, so you provide the ID photo. It tells you you need to provide a passport, so you provide a passport. These are very simple, straightforward. There's very little difficulty in these. There are a couple of things which you need to be aware of, like do you need to provide a police certificate or a new medical certificate, because they are valid in different ways. But overall this is generally reasonably straightforward. If you put in the application with just the basic application documents, it will be accepted for processing by Immigration New Zealand, but it's not really likely to do well, or to put it another way, it's quite random whether it will succeed or be declined. The reason being is that you might not have all the information that the case officer wants to see to prove that you meet the criteria, or you might need to overcome a negative impression. Perhaps the case officer has seen your information and has some sort of prejudice against your application, so you'll need to overcome this. So it's best to provide the necessary documents from the start so that the negative impression doesn't get created in the first place. The application-specific documents are things which prove that you meet the legal criteria for the visa that you are applying for. Immigration New Zealand must assess each application against specific legal requirements, and you need to prove that you meet these requirements. So prove being the most important word here. You can't just say that you do, you need to show that you do. For example, in a partnership application, one of the more common problems we see is that one of the requirements for a partnership visa is that you are in a genuine relationship with a New Zealand citizen or resident. So to prove this, many people will just provide their marriage certificate. Yeah, a marriage certificate does prove that you're married to a New Zealand citizen or resident, but it doesn't actually prove that it's a genuine relationship, because you could be married for all kinds of reasons, and it may not be genuine. So this by itself is not proof of a genuine relationship. The application-specific documents are different for every person, and this is quite important because every person has a different history. Even if they've done the same course, it might be in a different time, perhaps immigration see it differently. There are lots of factors which will mean that you need to tailor your application-specific evidence to your specific situation. This is one of the reasons why it's impossible to say, well, my friend did this 6 months ago, so I should be able to do it now. This is quite a common misconception. Apart from the fact that immigration law in New Zealand changes every other day, what some person has done may not be applicable to you, and it could be because of your situation, it could be because of the case officer, or it could be because the immigration policy or law has changed since last time. There are lots of factors which you need to take into account. So our next video will address the requirements of evidence and actually proving that you meet the criteria. Well, we'll see you again then. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe, and see you next time.